Well, it is so great to be back with my friend Hannah Aske, founder of 10-4 Ministries, which exists to inspire and equip churches in outreach children's ministry. We spoke before about the importance of children's ministry, and today I'd really like to dig into the idea of church culture and how we can create a culture in our churches that truly welcomes children. So, Hannah, hello, welcome.
Yeah.
You have worked in kids ministry your whole adult life and you've had experience of a few different churches. So,
Mhm.
what are some of the things you look for when it comes to building a healthy and welcoming culture for kids?
Yeah. I mean, culture is so important. But in terms of children's ministry, firstly, I think the first thing you look for is actually, is there a children's ministry? Like, is there anybody there? Is there a lead person? Are the children going to be looked after? Are they going to be welcomed? Are they going to be like spoken to? Or are they just going to be like forgotten about? Like, is my child likely to go into somewhere else for the kids ministry, or are they likely to be sitting on a seat doing some colouring for the whole service, not really being engaged with? And it's all those little things that is just like, if you have one lead person, it changes the whole atmosphere, the whole culture for that family to come into a church. But the second thing I look for is like, is it part of their vision and focuses? Like, is it actually listed? So every church should have this in place. Some places don't, but if they do, is children's, families, is youth work, is it part and listed as part of their vision and focuses? Because if it's not going to be part of their culture, is it? It's just going to be
Hmm.
something that is just like forgotten about, put to the side. Does the senior leader actually talk about children's ministry often? If there's this is what I love most of all, is if there are children in the church, they're making noise like they normally do. And if the church leader says, "Oh, we absolutely love having these children making noise and stuff like that. Isn't it great to have children in this church?" That's what I love. I absolutely love that because then it instantly shifts that culture of, if anybody else is sitting in the church, which there generally is in a congregation, there's always somebody sitting there going, "I wish that child would be quiet." Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, probably.
Always going to be that person. But having a senior leader or somebody from the platform say, "Isn't it just great?" And it just completely shifts the attitude, completely shifts the culture. Because if the minister didn't mention anything, then what's happening within the congregation is that stirring of negativity, I guess, towards children. And that's not the culture that you should be building within your church. You know, it should be that free space where children can come, they can be, they feel part of it, they feel valued, they feel like it's their space. You know, that's what the church should be. They shouldn't feel like they're not welcome. They shouldn't be having to be dragged to church by parents, you know? It should
Right.
be that the parents, the children are like, "I want to go to church. I love church because church is a place for me. Church is a place where I have friends. Church is a place where I feel accepted and belong." And, you know, that's what children should feel like. They should be dragging their parents to church saying, "Come on, let's go." Or nobody should be dragged. Everybody should be welcomed, I guess. We have to kind of be proactive rather than reactive because instantly, I think families now are walking into churches and instantly thinking, is my child going to be looked after here? And
Mm.
they'll give it one shot, maybe two goes, maybe even three. But if their child is not looked after within those weeks, then they're like, we're going to move on to somewhere else. And so it's a hard dynamic, but it's not an impossible one to change the culture.
I love the quote that you've got on your Instagram page from Gary Spicer, who says, "If you don't create your culture, you will get a culture by default." So the thing is, when you're saying all these things and, yeah, we want to create that great culture, it's not usually the children's pastor who gets to create the culture, is it? It's usually the domain of the senior leader. So I've got a bit of a cheeky question for you. Answer this however you wish. What is one thing that you wish you could say to senior leaders, even if it's maybe something you shouldn't?
I'm sure there's lots of things that I probably would say. I'm going to be polite, Joe. I'm going to be
Oh,
nice.
right. Oh, you're no fun.
I will like strangle them a little bit and just say, get ready, come on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, really get ready. Like, put in the hard work for it. Like, stop sitting around and thinking that it doesn't matter or thinking that something will happen. We have to be really, really intentional about putting it into our vision, making sure that it's part of our church, because otherwise the church won't grow. And if you're in a position where it's like you're seeing things just going through the motions and you're just trying to like look after the things the way they are, it's like you're not going to build anything. You know, it takes a lot of hard work, it takes intentionality, it takes bringing people in together and talking about it and building a team. It's not easy and there's always challenges, but get ready, because like there's so many children and young people across the UK who are wanting to know more about Jesus, and they're going to go to places to look for it. And so what are the places that they're going to go look for it? It's at the church. If they had a dream, which we're seeing all across the UK now, they have a dream saying, God told me to go to church. They're going to walk into a church. And if that church is not a place for them, then you've missed the opportunity. You know, we need to be really, really intentional about that. I mean, but there's so many barriers, there's so many obstacles. I know that I'm kind of talking quite broadly, because every church has a different story. Every church has a different obstacle that they've got to overcome. Every church has a different place where they're at right now. But you kind of need to be a little bit more creative and think outside the box and think about things that nobody else has thought about. And it's like, you know how we talked about strategy in the first one as well? It's like building that strategy and actually having that. But often I go to a church and I say, right, okay, how can we help you? But the list of things that they can't do is so much longer than the things that they can do. And it's like, come on, have some faith.
What are those things then? What are the things that stop a church leader feeling like it's even possible to have children's ministry?
Oh, I mean, there's so many things, but I think there's two of the most common. Is number one, there's finances, and number two is people. Like in terms of finances, if you don't have the financial backing, how can you employ a children's worker? How can you buy resources if you don't have the financial structures? But again, it comes to that thinking outside the box. I know some ministers that have taken a pay cut so that they could employ a children's worker for a day. I mean, that's a brave step to take.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Time, God's been faithful through that. And this is what I'm saying is we need to have faith that God is the God of miracles. He keeps his promises. So if he's saying to you, you need to do a children's ministry, you need to have faith in that and faith that God can do the amazing things. I've gone to some churches that don't have any budget at all for children's ministry, but it's like when it comes to games and all those types of things, just do free games. There's so many games that you can do for free. Actually, it's more important to have that place of belonging, acceptance, and love. And those three things are all free as well. Like they don't cost any money, do they? You know, it's something that actually to provide space where children and young people can come to. All you have to do is open up your building. And I know, again, that comes down to another story of some churches might not have a building, or some churches, do you know, it's all those different things. So
yeah,
think outside the box.
But I think you've got to think about what you have got, haven't you?
Exactly.
And so what have we got? What can we offer within the confines of, you know, what are our restrictions, but what can we do?
Exactly. And there's always something that you can do. Like, I mean, for our kids club, we always charge £1 for every person, and that kind of just covers all the little bits anyway as well. But yeah, I mean,
people are happy to pay that, I guess. £1 is nothing, is it?
Absolutely.
Is it £1 per child or pound per family?
Child, yeah.
Pound per
child, and then we do 50p for siblings. And then there's even some parents that literally come up to me saying, if you want any more funds, we'll give you some more funds. And I'm like, that's fine.
That's so good.
Because they're like, you're doing all of this and it's just £1. I think you should charge more. And it's because I don't know, maybe they're comparing us to like gymnastics or like, you know, all those different clubs that people go to. But actually, we want to provide a space for the children that don't have those opportunities to go to all those other clubs, you know, and they're sat at home not doing anything. And actually, they need to have that space where they feel accepted and they can come to know about Jesus. That's what it's all about, isn't it? But
Yeah, and I think that's really encouraging actually, because I think lots of churches probably think, oh, we have to put on everything for free.
yeah,
But it's good to know that families actually aren't expecting that, and a pound or £1.50 is really nothing. Like you can't even buy a cup of coffee for that. So I feel like if families feel like there's value in it, then people don't mind putting a
yeah,
pound in the pot, do they?
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's encouraging.
Exactly. And also, like, if somebody didn't turn up with a pound, I'm not going to say you can't come in. Like,
Right.
it's like
Absolutely.
if they want to come in, that's fine. But like, you know, and then the parents like, I'll pay the pound next week. I promise. I promise. And I'm like, it's totally fine. Absolutely fine. You don't need to. And they're like, no, I will. I will. I will. I promise. I'm like, okay. But yeah, it's just so nice. But I think the other thing what I mentioned was volunteers as well. We all know
Mm.
with the children's ministry how hard it is to get volunteers. You know, I think whenever I'm recruiting or asking somebody, they look a little bit scared and go, I don't think I can do children's ministry. Like
Yeah.
it's for me. But I think what's worse is when I've seen a church leader look around their church and think, no, none of those people can do children's
Mm.
ministry. And I'm like, sorry, what? Like,
Mm.
yes, they can. Like, you're instantly saying they can't do this because of this. You can't do this because of this. I went to one church and for ages I kept saying to them, you need to recruit some volunteers. You need to ask. And they were like, yeah, there's just nobody there. There's nobody. And so I went to the church and I did some sort of talk on the Sunday morning. And afterwards, I went around to a few people and said, do you want to come and join our? And they were like, oh, yeah, that would be great. And then I went to the church leader and said, that person said that they want to be in there. That person said, and he was like, oh, I didn't think they would. I was like, did you ask them? Did you actually ask them? So, you know, people will fulfill the need when they feel encouraged and empowered to do it. But, you know, you've got to have the right attitude and you've got to ask them and be like, you can do it, you know? Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that attitude and the heart posture. And I think even as kids leaders, we can sometimes be a bit negative about kids ministry, can't we? I've definitely heard myself say on more than one occasion, pour me a strong coffee because I'm about to be on the kids crew, or I'm going to go and parents come and get their kids, and what are you doing this afternoon? I'm going to go and lie in a dark room, which is partly true because it does use a lot of energy, but also I'm checking myself here because I feel a bit like, oh, that's sort of giving the wrong attitude, isn't it? Maybe I need to be a bit more excited about it. So, and I am excited about it. I love it.
No, don't worry. Like, just because I'm a children's worker and a children's leader does not mean that I don't turn up on a Sunday morning thinking, I really don't feel like doing it today. Like,
okay, that makes me feel better. Thanks. So I think people say lots of things about kids ministry and they're not always that positive. But if you could pin down one thing that you wish people would stop saying, what would it be?
yeah, there's so many. There's so many. I think, like, when people say, oh, it's so easy what you're doing, you're doing a great job, but it's really easy, or it's babysitting, you obviously just taking the kids out, you're just doing a little craft with them. Oh, that's nice, just watching over them. I'm like, well, it's not important. And I'm like, it is. You don't realize or understand what we're doing behind here, because actually we're being really intentional about raising disciples. And I mean, that's again with my own heart posture. So like I just said, like there's some weeks that I really don't feel like doing it, but I ask God and I'm like, God, give me this energy. I can do it. And by the time I'm there, I'm ready. I'm psyched up. I'm all good to go. I mean, I think I have like a bit of a loopy hour probably just before our kids ministry in the midweek where I'm just going around like the whole church, just like booping around like dance, and everybody's like, "Hannah, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just getting myself energized for the what's about to
Yeah,
come,"
yeah,
because it just needs to have that, and it's the reason why you need to have that heart posture behind it is to actually just do something a little bit further than is beyond yourself. Um, but it's when people like also say, "Oh, it's just not my thing," like, kids ministry isn't my thing. I'm like, it's not a category. Like, the children are part of your church. The children are part of absolutely everything that's going around. They're part of the family. They're just as much a part of the church as every single adult, as every single
yeah.
person who's been there for years. And so, like, I ask ministers the question, or I ask the congregation the question of, like, how willing are you to volunteer in children's ministry? And if anybody is like, no, I'm not willing, I'm like, well, how can you expect anybody else to do it if you're not willing to do it yourself? So
Mm.
it's again all down to the attitude about it. I'll tell you what, something else that came to mind was thinking about a dedication service. When a church is there, they're dedicating a child to and that everybody agrees to say that they are going to be part of raising that child, going to be part of like
Yeah, they
speaking
do.
life into
Yeah.
the child. They all stand
Yeah,
up
we
and
had
say,
one last Sunday and we all said it.
yeah, exactly. They say, we will. Absolutely. We will be part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody, you can all volunteer for the kids team then, yeah, at some point? Oh, no, 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 no. Kids is not my thing. Kids is not my thing. Like, I can't do that.
Yeah, there's a challenge. There's a
But,
challenge.
you know, I, I understand it because we understand how challenging children's ministry is.
Mm.
We understand that not everybody has the patience, not everybody has the, ability
Yeah,
to be
and
able.
you don't want people involved who really hate it, do you? Like, we're all meant to do different things. We're all the body of Christ. We're serving in different ways.
Mhm.
But I think you're right. I think there are definitely people out there who maybe haven't considered it or considered why it's important,
Yeah.
and they're just shying away from it. And honestly, I was one of those people.
Mhm.
I felt a nudge from God to say, when we had a shout out from the front of, "We'd like some more kids crew, please." And I felt like God was just tapping me on the shoulder going, "Go on then, you can do that.
Yeah.
Go on then."
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, and I was really scared, but I did it as an act of obedience, and it's been
Mhm.
amazing. It
Mm.
has been completely amazing. But the first week, I was really nervous,
Yeah.
because you don't know what you're walking into. I think that's what's alarming about kids ministry, is that you don't really know what you're walking into.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like
So I
a
get
lot of,
it.
yeah, exactly. And a lot of the time though, I'll try and encourage, and I'll just say, just come in and see what it's all about. Give it a go. And like, we kind of like edge them in. And then when obviously through safety recruitment procedures, obviously,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
at the same time, in terms of encouraging them to be part of it, it's a slow, and then they go, oh, that was a lot more fun than I expected. Oh, that was
Right.
actually a lot more better than I expected. That was okay. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, yeah, come in. And then slowly I'll get them to, or I'll encourage them, sorry, not get them, I'll encourage to to lead something, or to take part in actually planning something. If I recognize the gifting in that person, I'm like, you can lead, and they're like, no, I can't do that, no, I can't do that. Have a little go. Oh, that's so much easier than I thought it was going to be. It's just having that heart posture and willing to give it a go, but also having the heart posture of, these children need somebody to love them and accept them. Don't ignore them. Don't put them to the side. Don't say, they're not important, or it's not my thing. That child is as part of the church family as every single other person. And just say hello to them, talk to them. I have better conversations with children sometimes than I do with adults, because
Yeah.
they just blow your mind a little bit. They're just, yeah. And then that whole mood that I had before I went in to children's ministry, like, oh, I can't do it today, it always shifts by the end. I don't know about you, Joe, but by the time I've got through it, I'm like, this was great. This was great. I had this great conversation. I had so much fun with this person. There's always going to be sessions where you're just like, one of those children really, really annoyed me
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
day. The whole time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's always joy within that as well. So it's just having that positive attitude, isn't it?
All right, let's flip this around a bit then. Imagine a church leader who has done all the right things. They've built a team. They're passionate about children's ministry. It's part of their church's vision. But despite all of that, they still don't have children attending on a Sunday morning. So what advice would you give them?
Get in contact with me.
Yeah, good advice. Excellent advice.
I will help you. I would say look to start an outreach children's ministry. Church doesn't need to happen just on a Sunday. There's good faithful steps and good strategy that can help outreach feed into a Sunday. But start an outreach ministry. I mean, I've worked with a couple of churches. One, when I went to it, they were so determined. They were like, right, we need to have a service. We need to have it all feed into our Sunday morning service. And I was like, just wait a little bit. Let's just start it on the Friday night first. Let's actually build culture here first, build family here first. We can share the gospel with them every single week. I want to see growth with it. And then that automatically fed into the Sunday service where they literally just like, I want to be part of the Sunday service. Yeah, I want to have some more of this, because we had built that great culture in the midweek. And it's the same with another church that I'm working with. And we just, every event kind of leads on to something. So around this time of year, you're thinking about Mother's Day and Easter and all those different things. Now, they are things that you could do within the church. So throughout your midweek, you could do like a Mother's Day craft or something like that, and then say, hey, on Sunday, we're doing such and such event for Mother's Day. Would you like to come? When it comes to Easter, you do an Easter party like before Easter Sunday, and then you say, hey, we're having this amazing Easter party in the midweek. Hey, here's an invite to our Easter Sunday service where you can all come along, and we're all going to do all these fun things as well. So it's all those strategies that it will feed into throughout the year. Some people will be like, okay, outreach ministry, that sounds like a lot of hard work. Not sure if we can do that. Yes, it is a lot of hard work, which is why I say come in contact with me and I'll come and talk to you. But I am going to go one step further and say, if launching children's ministry, like a outreach ministry, seems too hard for your congregation on their own, why not partner with another local church who is equally in the same position as you and come together and do a children's ministry in the midweek? Now that is
what puts people off doing that? That seems like a great idea, but what puts people off?
I think there's a lot of things. The things that will come into it will be, well, finances, who's paying for what.
Right.
Also, then what's going to be the result afterwards? So, but if we've got two churches that are working for this children's ministry and the outreach, then what church are they going to go to afterwards? And how are we going to get this, and how are we going to get that? And I'm not going to lie, I'm going to say that sounds a little bit like selfish, or it sounds a little bit like it's all about you. Do you know what I mean?
Sometimes it is.
But is that kingdom?
No, it's not. But that is how we think, because that's our humanity creeping in there, isn't it? And we look around our church and we go, oh, we haven't got enough kids here. We want to get more kids in. So we're trying to do that. And instead of having that kingdom heart posture of we just want people to know Jesus.
Yeah. And I would say, what's more important? Is it more important that you have people in your church on a Sunday morning? Or is it more important that you have led 20 children to know Jesus in that midweek.
Yeah.
What's more important, seeing children come to know Jesus or seeing them come into your church building? And obviously, yeah, we want to see that. But if, again, we go back to the heart posture again, if your heart posture is, I just want to see children come to know Jesus in whatever way that looks like, God will bless that work more so than I want children to come into my church so that we can be vibrant and we can look like we're doing all the right things and stuff. I think God would bless more work if you were just doing what he said of go and make disciples, of all nations. That's what he was saying, and that's our Great Commission. And it's that type of thinking that needs to happen across the church, of thinking, okay, I don't know how the outcome is going to be. I don't know if this strategy is going to bring people into my church. All I know is that I want to see more and more children give their lives to Jesus. So I'm going to partner with another church, and we're going to come together with kingdom values, saying we're going to put on something so that more and more children in our community estate, the people that are not hearing about Jesus, actually, we want them to hear about Jesus. So we're going to do whatever it is, and we're going to come together. We're going to come together with the same values and work together. And wherever they go afterwards, that's great. That's fine. That's up to them. But, surrendering the outcome, and God will bless you through that. And just being faithful and obedient to what he's calling us to do. I think it's just so important. So yeah, surrender the outcome and what you need to do.
Oh, you make it sound so easy.
Just do it.
Yeah. So there is a huge buzz right now. We touched on it earlier a little bit when we talked about people having dreams and then showing up at church. So around the whole Gen Z, the quiet revival, lots of young people in their late teens and early 20s just rocking up to church, which is amazing. I think it's going to have repercussions in kids ministry in the next 10 years because soon those people will be the parents. But what I always think about kids ministry is that we're really on the front line of the future where we are, because we're interacting with the next generation, with Gen Alpha and even Gen Beta now. So I think Gen Beta started being born in 2025, didn't they? So those are generations that are definitely growing up very differently to most people who serve in children's ministry. So I wonder if they need something different than, older people experienced in their childhood in church. What do you think this generation of kids needs from the church?
So I do a few training programs actually on Generation Alpha. And the key takeaways, there's a few key takeaways, but like ones that kind of shape what we need to do in children's ministry is this, that number one, Generation Alpha doesn't need the same authority structures, hierarchies, or traditional power approaches because we're in more collaborative times. So,
okay, tell me more about that.
So when it comes to, that whole behavior management thing where it's like, I'm the adult, so you need to listen to me, so you need to be quiet right now, and that's it. I don't think kids really do that now.
Not in my experience, no.
That is like that authority structure, but that used to be in the past. That was the way it was, wasn't it? That children needed to listen and be quiet, and that was it. Silence for children. The adult is speaking and the adult is doing the teaching. And if you do not listen, you're going out, and that's it. There's no talking through it, and there's no relationship building or anything like that. But that has completely shifted now because of everything that they're open to, everything that they're exposed to in terms of technology, everything that they see and witness around them. That now we're in a more of a collaborative time, which means it does take more time. We need to actually have more conversations with children. And we need to take time to have those conversations. So there will be times I'm not going to lie, within children's ministry where we'll have to say, no, be quiet, that's it. That's after a few warnings and a few times. But afterwards, I will always make sure that there's a restorative conversation afterwards where I speak to that child afterwards and say, right, okay, let's talk about what happened. How do you feel right now? They'll tell me how they feel. I'll say, well, your actions made me feel like this, and this. You come to an agreement then with each other of saying, right, okay, what is going to make you feel happier? What is going to make me feel happier? And you kind of come in the collaboration together of discussing a way to move forward rather than me just saying, this is how I feel, this is what you need to do, and that's it. Actually,
Hmm.
I'm taking time to hear their opinion, I'm taking time to hear their thoughts and their feelings. Um, and then helping them to understand so that we can come in collaboration together. Um, and I think that's a shift that everybody needs to know about, but also know the importance of actually just the day to day of saying hello to that child. As a whole church congregation, how many children are you saying hello to and welcoming in and saying, how are you? How's your week been? What have you done this week? And then most likely is the most random thing that a child will come up with that they've remembered. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it helps them feel valued, it helps them feel accepted, and that's what they
Yeah.
need in the church.
Hmm.
Obviously, we've got technology, which then means shorter attention spans, impaired social formation in that as well. So it's like, are they actually going to build relationships? But again, that highlights the importance of people saying hello to them because they may feel really anxious, they may feel really nervous. Are we wanting a whole generation of people that don't know how to socialize?
Yeah, no one wants that.
I don't think anybody wants that in the world
No,
because
and I think people are coming to church, like families are coming to church because they're looking for community, aren't they? They're looking for real interaction. But also, I had a thought yesterday that actually these kids that are in our kids ministries now have been very formed by their experience of COVID. Like the 8-year-olds that we've got now were toddlers when we were in lockdown. And so I wonder how that has informed this generation as well and what that does for their social anxiety and all of those things. So I think
absolutely.
there's a lot that the church can offer and that we can offer in our kids ministries to help kids to grow in their social skills, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And I think there's that greater need for intergenerational leadership, where some people will think that, oh, I'm too old to talk to children. No, what you learn in your generation is so valuable to these children because
Yeah.
they're not getting it. They're not getting those same human intrinsic needs of belonging, acceptance, and love as much as what you may have had before because that's all you had. They've got so much more available to them now that it's like, okay, where do I go for any of this? Or they don't see the importance of it. But actually, that is just what makes us human. We need to be accepted. We need to feel belong. We need to feel community. And again, like you said, I think families are bringing them into church because they want that sense of community. And that's what the church needs to be. It needs to be that place of community and happiness and joy, and why shaping culture is so, so important. But most importantly, let's not beat around it, but our children need an encounter with the Holy Spirit. I think that's the
Right.
only.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That is if you want, you can change the culture, you can change everything else. But unless you are leading the children to know Jesus and to have an encounter with Jesus and the Holy Spirit, what's the point? You can make little changes and stuff, but to make a real difference in a child's life is to lead them to know Jesus. And Jesus said, let the children come to me and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these. And it's like,
Hmm.
we cannot forget the importance of children's ministry. We cannot forget that we can just shut them in a room. They'll be fine. It's babysitting. It's all, no, it's a box ticked. No, these are children of the church. And, if you want to see a future in your church, then you need to be leading these children to know Jesus, because they are going to, just to imagine how the church will shape and shift if every church had a vibrant children's ministry. It would just be incredible, because you can just see it build together and grow. And we just need to be ready. As a whole people, we need to be ready. We need to wake up and we need to push forward. And we just, come on, people. Let's go.
Come on. I know. You're getting really fired up now. I love that.
I'm like, let's do it. But that's why 10-4 is rise up. This matter is in your hands. We will support you, so take courage and do it. Because basically, I probably spend my whole time going like this. I'm like, come on. So let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it together. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. It is exciting. We have got so many more things that we can talk about, and thankfully we have many more episodes planned. So thank you for your insight today into church culture and how we make that happen. I guess it all begins with prayer in the first place when you're starting everything. But let's dig into some more bits of those things in further episodes. And thank you, Hannah, for your time today.
No worries. I enjoyed it. Let's go.
Let's go.